One of the things, staying on that topic specifically, because I think everybody's, you know, I haven't met anybody who's not worried about, if not their job, somebody they know, the threat of foreclosure. And one of the things we're getting the sense of as I read the paper is that he intends on January 20th, not only will he be formally the president, he's going to be ready to go. Right. And he's going to have, if not something passed already, something ready to be passed.
Well, I think what we're going to try to do is, you know, it's most people don't realize that the Congress is sworn in on the 6th. So there's 2 weeks between the 6th and the 20th, the presidential inauguration. So the goal is to actually pass that stimulus package in both houses so that it can be signed the first day he takes office. So that's what we're trying to do.
Have they told you yet what's going to be in it, or is that what's being negotiated and worked on now?
Well, I mean, I'll try to be brief. The original package, I think, was about $150 billion. That's been kicked around for the last year. And now he's talking 300 to 500 billion. But the basic idea is the same. In other words, a lot of it is infrastructure, money that would go back to the states and possibly the counties or the towns for highways, mass transit, school construction, hospitals. And then there's also the Medicaid part, which I've been involved with, which basically gives the states more money for their Medicaid match so that they get more dollars from the federal government. Because a lot of people now go on the Medicaid rolls with all the unemployment the way it is. People don't have work, and so they're eligible for Medicaid. I mean, those are the things that come to mind, but there are a lot of other aspects to it.
You're involved in the Medicaid through your committee?
Right, because I chair the health subcommittee, and that comes through us. And in fact, I actually sponsored the Medicare part of the previous one, the $150 billion package.
Reverend Gibson, one of the things we were talking about, the reaction in the black community. Now, I know older people, I won't call anybody elderly, but people who remember the civil rights era and can remember the 50s, who, when you said they walked in to vote and cried.
Yes.
But they also have expectations now.
Yeah, I think there are expectations, and yet the level of excitement to me seems to overwhelm, or it's greater than the expectations. People are hoping that some of the pain that we're experiencing by way of the economy, the wars, will diminish somewhat. But I don't think they have unrealistic expectations. You know, I think a lot of folk have been worried about what does it mean to have an African-American president of the United States? Will he just be president to black folk, or will he really be the president for the entire country? And I think the jury is out in some locations and some locales where they're wondering, will we be able to trust him? Will he be able to lay aside some of our fears? And I think that what they're going to find is that he will be a fair broker of resources across the nation. And I don't think black folks have unrealistic expectations. Like anybody else, we're all affected by the economy, and the wars are certainly, they've taken a heavy toll on all of us. But there's just great excitement, and I think it's because, again, anybody that's about 40 or over says, we never thought this moment would come in our lifetime. And I can share that. I was 13 when Dr. King made his I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. And even as a child growing up in the city of Baltimore, I just never thought that we would have a black president.
Now, we've seen elected officials, mayors. Baltimore has had an African-American mayor. I don't know if they've had a governor. New Jersey, we've got Cory Booker. We've got Doug Palmer out of Trenton. And we've seen high-ranking Colin Powell, Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice. But president is...
it's another level.
It's just another
level.
level.
You know, the thing is, I think it's true that it's another level. But you think about the fact that Condoleezza Rice was Secretary of State, Colin Powell. I mean, maybe, a lot of times maybe we weren't aware of the fact that this was sort of happening gradually and getting very close to the White House without anybody realizing it almost, you know?
One of my concerns is we have a president, but I don't believe we have a black that's a senator.
Well, he was the only one. Now, they are saying that the governor of Illinois is under a certain amount of pressure to choose an African American because otherwise there won't be one in the Senate. That's true.
Basil Patterson,
that
Governor,
concerns
not,
me.
I'm sorry, Governor Patterson, that was his father, Basil Patterson, in replacing Hillary Clinton. There's discussion there about who he might.
Yeah.
One of the things, I never saw a more perfect campaign. As someone who watches campaigns, Congressman, you've
It's true. It's unbelievable.
never ruffled, never angry, never took the bait where he would, and he had a number of opportunities to get angry
Maybe
that nobody would have blamed
opportunities,
him.
But the excitement in that campaign, I mean, you know, it was such a grassroots campaign. He raised so much money. He had so many volunteers. I think I told you, I believe I told you, when we put out a call, because my office on Broadway, you know, my campaign office became an Obama headquarters for the last 2 months. And we put out a call for volunteers, I think, about a week after Labor Day. Now, normally when I do that, because, you know, I pretty much contact the same people, I'll get about 15 or 20 people that will show up. 145 people showed up.
They had to use their own phones.
They literally were sitting out in the parking lot. And then when that was the first night, you know, to just come and see if you were interested. We had 30 to 45 people every night that would come and make calls. We only had 11 phones.
But sometimes they were calling other states.
No, they wouldn't leave.
Right.
They would sit on the floor and use their cell phones and call. And most of the time we were calling other states, not even locally. And the people just kept coming. It was the way he you know, got people interested and motivated was unbelievable.
Has there ever been a time when the nation really needed a fresh face and a new agenda, a new direction? And I guess that's what President-elect Obama brings. He's a new face, relatively inexperienced in terms of the normal progression. But I think because of his uniqueness, people have just rallied around that because it's time for something new. And that's what I hear all the time.
Well, hold that thought because we're going to take a little break and then we can talk about that.
Okay.